Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the second season of the OTSU talk show. I'm super high. Oh, I'm already getting comments. Hey, everyone, how are you guys? Today is a very special episode because the first time we are having. Oh, hey, girl. Sorry, I can see everyone's comments. Today is such an exciting episode as it's our first time hosting a show on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. As you all know, this is the first time we are having such a day, so I'm super excited. And without further ado, I'm just going to introduce our guest because you're all here to hear from her. So I want to bring her on. Okay, cool.
Hi,
Hello, my girl. How are you?
I'm good, babe. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I think my camera's, I can lift it up a bit. So before we get started, as always, you probably already know this, we gotta say our land acknowledgement. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. So the Ontario Tech Student Union acknowledges the lands and people of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, which is covered under the Williams Treaties. We are situated on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Greater Anishinaabeg Nation, which includes Algonquin, Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. Sis, I'm super excited for today. We've literally been messaging each other back and forth.
Yeah.
Super hyped. Why don't you just introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, so my name is Meagan Muscat. I am a fourth-year forensic psychology student with a minor in criminology and justice. I'm also a student working employee through Student Works with the Indigenous Education and Cultural Services team. So I'm the Indigenous programming assistant. That's just a little bit about me. Culturally, I am Métis. I come from the Region 7 area, which basically is from Beaverton up to Gravenhurst and close to Barrie. So it's up a bit more north. That's where I grew up, and those are where my teachings come from. I was on the Moon River Métis Council, which is a council part of the Region 7. I was the I was the youth representative. So for several years, I represented the youth in our community and made sure that they had a voice with what they wanted to see from their local council. But I had to step down from that position because my parents moved to Barrie and someone already had the position. So, but since I've been here working on my undergraduate and being a part of this awesome Indigenous community that we have on campus, and the support is absolutely amazing.
No, we love you. We love you. And before we get started into, we already know today we're going to be venting, we're ranting, we're going to be talking, opinions, perspectives. Before we get into that, I just want to do a little disclaimer that our experiences are based on ourselves. So as a non-Indigenous person, I'll be speaking on for myself, and for you, you're speaking on yourself, and for everyone out there, we're not representing our entire community. So I'm not representing everyone who's non-Indigenous. My girl, she's not representing everyone that's Indigenous. We're all saying our own perspectives, our own thoughts, our own opinions. And most importantly, this is a very nice and safe space. So if anyone has any comments or opinions that they'd like to put in the chat, feel free. Because the whole point of this talk show is to express yourself, to go all out. So make sure appropriate comments and that we're spreading the love and positivity. Cool? We cool, sis? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, you got it. Just people don't realize how much diversity Indigenous people do have. One region could be totally different than another region, speak a totally different language, have totally different teachings. So as much as there is a lot of diversity. So again, I don't want to be speaking for all Indigenous people, as Amrutha said.
Exactly. So let's just jump right into it. So
awesome.
From your perspective, what is truth and reconciliation? Because I know a lot of students are kind of confused with it because it's the first time having a day like this. You know this. Right. I think the government announced in June or July that it's coming up September 30th. It's going to be annual. So what is it?
So it's the action of trying to find a solution to all of the trauma that has been endured. So this Truth and Reconciliation Day is a national acknowledgement of the horrors that happened to Indigenous people through, a cultural genocide, through, years of intergenerational trauma. This day is a way to get people to acknowledge what has happened and take some form of accountability, because there hasn't been a whole lot of that recently. But that's basically what it is, to come together and acknowledge what's happened and find a way forward together.
No, 100%. I totally agree with you. And one thing I want to add, just like you said, today to like educate yourselves. And one thing I want to say about today's live, but the whole point of this talk show is that we're not here to tell you stuff that you can just find on Google. That's not the whole point of this, because Google is your best friend. So if you want to know the history and stuff, go there. But today, we're hearing your perspectives as an Indigenous woman, talking about your perspectives, like being on campus, side of campus. So definitely educate yourselves and listen to the various stories out there. There's so many.
Exactly. There are a lot. And there are, you know, there's a website called 150 Ways to Contribute to Reconciliation that you can go on. Educate yourself on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls report that came out a couple of years ago, because the findings of that are actually horrific. Educate yourself on what went down in Kamloops and the other residential schools. And if you have a chance, maybe go visit one. Because they do have some around here that you can go visit and walk through and experience what those kids, not to the extent of what those kids experience, but go through those halls and just feel that energy. It's absolutely like thrilling. Like it's horrible. So just educate yourself and look online, because for Indigenous people, it's hard to keep talking about this. When someone asks you what a residential school is, it keeps bringing up the trauma, right? So every time we have to explain it, we have to think about, well, what happened, and then we have to go through it again. So it's a really good thing is to look online, go to YouTube. There are plenty of awesome YouTube videos that explain exactly what happened. And just remember that this is a breathing time for Indigenous people as well, and to be very considerate of that as well.
No, for sure. And just to add on to what you said, first of all, we're also grateful that you're here talking about your perspectives, because I know it's not easy. The more you talk about it, people think it might get easier. It doesn't. It doesn't. So we appreciate you and love you for that.
Thank you. And love you too.
And one other thing I wanted to say, today, like I said, to educate yourself, but at the same time, don't pry on Indigenous people. Don't be messaging them saying like, hey, teach me this, teach me that. Google is your best friend. Give them their space. They deserve, they need it. And they deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. Very well put.
No, for sure. And now, your favorite, I feel like this is something you always love talking about.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people out there, there's so many trolls on Instagram, social media in general, where they're like, why do we still talk about this stuff?
Exactly.
Why? So people still keep asking, and they're like, 2021, these things happened ages ago, even though me and you, we know, things still go on. So why don't you tell them, to those people, why it's important to continue the conversation?
Like, I'd like to start by putting it in a different perspective. Would you go up to an American and tell them to forget about 9/11? No. So what's the difference, right? Like this, you have to remember, it was only, I believe, 96 that the last residential school closed. And these effects of what we're seeing that happened in the residential schools, they're continuously harming the families through intergenerational trauma, higher chance of addictions, a lower chance of education, all these different higher chances of we're way overrepresented in the judicial system, and that's just because of what's going on. So it's still happening. As much as you think, oh, it's over, it was 10 years ago, whatever, it's not. It still is relevant today as it was back then, and it will still be relevant until we can figure a way to reconcile and heal, which won't be for a long time. So but yeah, sure. we need this time to go forward as a nation, right?
No, for sure. And I loved how you gave that example, the whole thing with 9/11, because we all know that if this was an issue for non-Indigenous people, there would be action taken. We all know that. Exactly. For example, like I always hear about the clean water. We'll get into those type of stuff. But Indigenous people still don't have access to clean water. People are like, why is that even still important? But imagine if non-Indigenous people like myself, if we didn't have access to clean water, we already know that problem would have gotten solved ages ago. Like in a flash, it would have gotten solved. And everyone would have been talking about it. So I love that example, 100%. So the impact of residential schools, we all know they've affected many Indigenous people over time, like you said, intergenerational trauma. Right. Why don't you expand a bit more of how it has affected either you, if you want to talk about your personal experience, it affected you, your family, or people that you know?
Well, you know, especially with the Kamloops discovery, we all knew those kids were there, but it was the actual act of finding them that it just upsets your whole community to think that those children could have lives. They could have embraced their culture. They could have led productive experiences and stuff like that. And to think that was just taken away from them based on their cultural upbringing is horrific. So it's that mourning. It's almost a continuous mourning for those kids because no one's taking accountability for it. No one's saying they're sorry in any meaningful way or impactful way to us. So it's just that continuous like feeling of betrayal and mourning that just like raptures our communities, especially like it's like we can't move on, we can't close this chapter of our lives until something happens. And you know, there's so much trepidation to move anything forward, which is the worst part too.
No, for sure. I'm like, honestly, I can't even comment on that because I can't even relate to it. So
yeah,
it's definitely tough. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
And being, like I said before, being an Indigenous woman, what are some obstacles or hurdles that you had to overcome outside of the university? We'll get into what happens in the university later, but what are things that you have to face like on a daily basis outside of the university?
Well, there's always that, you know, feeling that people don't exactly care for you, or that odd feeling that, you know, people, like, it's almost an embarrassment. For Métis people in particular, we weren't liked by either Indigenous people or white people because we're a mix. That's what, you know, that's what Métis actually means. It means the word mix. So we're a mix of Indigenous people and white people. So for me, I've dealt a lot in my life with neither conforming with being totally Indigenous or being totally white. And what happens is that neither community takes accountability for you, or well, at this point, no, that I would say that's not true. Again, because, you know, my Indigenous community has always been there for me. But for other people, they might not recognize me as being fully Indigenous or being fully white. So the issue with that is that people will just look down on you. My great grandmother never came out as Métis because she knew that she would get so much discrimination. So it was only until 20, 30 years ago that my family even knew that we were Indigenous, which is a horrible thing and horrible thing to hide. Because, you know, right now it's like I'm so proud of who I am and my culture. I can't even think about ever being quiet about it, right? I'm pretty vocal
No, for
about
sure, yeah.
So it's a daily thing too, is that you can tell when people don't approve by the way they talk to you and by the way they look at you. And sometimes I see that and I'm like, well, why? Because why should who I am bother who you are? A lot of people don't understand why, you know, we keep, you know, funding Indigenous resources or programming, and why we keep giving money to Indigenous people. Many people chastise us because of the amount of money that we receive from the government, but they don't understand the whole truth because they don't educate themselves. They just have an opinion about it and they don't educate. Well, maybe this is why they receive this, or actually it's a lot worse for them this way. You know, it's hard to understand. But this is discrimination that we face every day, and until people get educated and educate themselves, it will never go away because people have too many opinions about what they don't know about.
No, I feel like sis, I agree with you. I feel like people are too hung up on their just own opinions that are self-made without looking into the facts, which is what we want people to realize.
Like, they won't educate themselves, but they have more than enough opinions about the topic. You know?
Well said, sis. Well said. You get them snaps for that. No, 100%. Now let's move on to on campus. I know this can come up as like pretty controversial, whatever it is, but I want to be completely honest because every organization, every institution can improve. Even the OTSU, like, we all know we can improve and become more inclusive. That's a fact. Everyone can. I can educate myself better. We all can. So what are things that you faced on school, like in school?
So I work with the Indigenous Education and Cultural Services team, and one thing that I do notice is that we don't get a lot of, as much as I say that we have a lot of allies, people who come to our events, it's very minimal. For people who have to actually reach out and maybe participate in a craft, an Indigenous craft that our traditional knowledge keeper Rick does, or participate in a language workshop that Jill or Alyssa, our community team, community engagement coordinator is Alyssa. But yeah, so we really want to see more of that engagement in our allies and our Indigenous students to come to these events and show their support. So that's one thing that I'd like to see more from our campus, but we know the love is there. We do feel that the love and support from our community, and I'm even with you reaching out for me to do this on today shows that you know and you support, and that's very important to us. But again, we would love to see more people coming out to these events again, just to show their support.
No, 100%. Speaking of events, and you were talking about Jill, I love Jill. She's
Yeah,
an amazing
Jill's so
human
cute.
being.
I love it too.
I just love that entire department. Such sweet people. And why don't you tell our students what are some of the services that you all provide for both allies and Indigenous people?
So we do different programming. Like we do monthly programming and cultural workshops. So I mean, some of them would have been like I made a dream catcher or medicine bags, and learning about the traditional teachings of the four sacred medicines and stuff like that. We do a lot of we are part of the ISSN, which is the Indigenous Student Success Network, which is for Indigenous students from our school to talk with Indigenous students from other schools like Trent, Fleming, and BC. So we have that as well. And yeah, just support. If you want to learn more, we have a library with a bunch of books that you can rent out or take and bring back. And yeah, so we just offer our support in the Indigenous Cent. We offer programming, amazing programming that we'd love to see more people come to.
No, 100%. I feel like being an ally, part of it comes with attending these events, supporting the Indigenous community, supporting their events. And to add on to that, what are other ways do you think that non-Indigenous students can contribute to reconciliation both on campus and off campus?
Wearing your orange shirt today is is a biggie.
I am so mad at myself. I was searching for one all day.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. If you honestly don't have, it's like totally fine. But I saw that a lot on campus. I was at campus earlier today, and I saw a lot of orange shirts. So that definitely is something that is a big win. I would have to say maybe popping by the Bagwadding Center if you're ever available, just to come and say hi, because our lovely ladies, want some company. I'm there too sometimes as well. And yeah, just showing your support, coming to the events, telling other people, informing other people. If you hear someone say something that's not right, correct them and let them know what's going on. If they make us like a snide comment, correct them, because they shouldn't be saying that. We don't want to keep perpetuating these rumors, these myths about Indigenous people that are so easily falsifiable if you look online. But yeah, so that's what I'd have to say. Like to show your support, just get involved and keep up with the days that are with what's coming up at the center, and getting involved that way is awesome.
No, for sure.
We have a Facebook page. Yeah, so we have a Facebook page. The Indigenous Indigenous Education Student. Yeah. Anyway, the center. So if you go there, you can you go to the Facebook page, and we have everything there for you to see what we're doing too. That's one way you want to keep informed. Go to the Facebook page for that.
No, of course. And one thing that I actually do as like a non-Indigenous person to educate myself is that Ontario Tech actually has some really nice classes. And I took them over the summer. It's actually called Intro to Indigenous Studies. I took that over the summer. So informative. It was led by Dr. Regina Hartwick. And she herself is an Indigenous person, and like amazing class. Yeah. So much conversation. I love it. Another thing is for our health science students, I know it's actually mandatory now for first years. There's an Intro to Indigenous Studies, like health class. Yeah, there's a health class.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I really wish that it was mandatory when I was in first year. I'm trying to take it as an elective next semester, but it's super important to educate yourself about like even the healthcare system.
Exactly.
So take those classes for sure.
Exactly. And I took the Intro to Indigenous Studies, and I loved it. It was really, really cool because that like course is hard to get into. A lot of students actually want to take it, which is it's like heartwarming to see that they would like to take the course. But yeah, I definitely recommend taking it. It's really, really cool. And the professor, like, awesome at telling the stories and the teachings, and they do it in a respectful way. Like, I absolutely love that course. I I wish I could take it again because it's just it's
amazing.
nice. It's fun. It's fun. It's a good course. Yeah.
And just like you said, one thing I loved you said is like, if you notice something happening, say something.
Yeah.
You need to stand up, be that voice. So we all know, like, especially when it comes to minority groups like Indigenous people, they don't get their voices heard on a daily basis at all. So it's our job as non-Indigenous people to speak up and to help them in any way we can.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to tell our students?
Come to our events.
And is there anything specific you guys are doing today?
We had a previous event. It was a viewing of Indian horse. But if you want to know what's happening, go to the Indigenous Education and Cultural Services Facebook page. We post all of our events that are happening there. Like the page, and that's how you can keep on top of everything. So that's how you can get involved.
Awesome. Meagan, sis, we love you and appreciate you. I'm super grateful for you to taking your time and like coming out and speaking and just being so vulnerable because it's not easy. So we appreciate your story and know that you are loved and the Indigenous community is loved.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you, girl. You're so sweet. Thank you.
No, like I said, we're spreading the love and positivity. And to everyone else out there, if you ever need help and you just want someone to even just listen to you, reach out to Student Life, reach out to the Indigenous Cultural Services. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Indigenous Education and Cultural Services. It's hard. It's a lengthy one. It
is. Reach out to Meagan. She's amazing. I love her so much. And reach out to the OTSU. We're all here to listen and support you.
All right. Thank you so much.
So with that, I'm going to close off. I hope you all have an amazing day. And like I said, get educated. Take today to reflect on your own actions. And let's just come together and make our school and the world a better place.
Exactly. So, that's facts. All right.
Let's snap it up for me now.
Yeah. Snaps.
No, but thank you. We'll see you all later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.